Hey everybody, welcome back to Complete Collection, the show where we are going through my massive record shelf, one album at a time. My name is Bryce, otherwise known as Locked Groove, and today I'm joined by my cat Glimmer, who just wants to hang out and show off some amazing music to everyone. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because I've recently added a ton of new records to my collection, including a bunch in the country and folk genres, which if you recall previous episodes, we've already taken a look at. So we're going to start things off with a bunch of new arrivals and then pick up where we left off in the electronics section. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be really amazing. Just a moment of housekeeping though before we get started. Complete Collection is a timed exclusive with my Patreon. So what that means is that patrons will get early access to new episodes before they drop. If you are watching this on YouTube publicly, then you are late to the punch. You're about a month behind. So if you want access to fresh episodes of Complete Collection, head on over to my Patreon. The easiest way to get there is via my website, lockedgroove.me. Now that we are into it, and now that Glimmer seems to be, well, she's not settled, but now that we are into it, let's kind of get started with the episode. I never have a script for these things, so we are just kind of gonna fly by the seat of our pants a little bit and show off some really cool music. So this first one, Glimmer seems interested. This first one is called Where the City Ends. It's by Del Barber. Del Barber is a country and folk artist, a singer-songwriter, truly a songwriter's songwriter, maybe a storyteller's songwriter. Glimmer, do you have kissies? Oh, okay, this has to be the take then. Okay, Del Barber, he is a Canadian singer-songwriter from Manitoba, I believe. And I'm really excited that I was able to pick this up. This album's from 2010 or maybe even 2009. And what's interesting about this record is that I used to go back in the day, back in like my early 20s, I was a really big fan of the Canadian singer-songwriter folk scene across the country. And I feel like that is something that has kind of stuck with me to this day. I mean, I am I do Polaris Prize, so that is something that kind of keeps me connected to Canadian music in a really special way. But Del Barber is an amazing story because I used to watch him back at a venue called Marquee Room. Marquee Room was a little bar just above a movie theater. It was like basically overlooking the marquee, hence the name. And it was just a really fabulous spot to catch all sorts of like Canadian singer-songwriters who would come through. I think of folks like Jen Grant, Mike Adele, Del Barber. Like there's some really fabulous names that came through that spot and others throughout the city that I've seen. Del Barber I recently saw live, so I'm adding this record to my collection now in spite of it being an album that I listened to back in the day when I first got into Del. But now, I recently saw him live, and it turns out that this would have been his last live show in Calgary. He put on a farewell tour. I guess Del Barber is getting out of music and decided to go on one final trek across the country. And sure enough, I managed to catch him in just a very iconic venue in Calgary, a place called the Ironwood. It's this fabulous little bar and stage that hosts all manner of like country, western, jazz, blues, all sorts of stuff, singer-songwriters, everything. And I mean, I just had like a very highly emotional time. He played a bunch of songs that I love from this record and beyond. And I just thought it was an amazing time. I really felt like he took me back to a place where, back to a much simpler time, frankly speaking. So we're talking like 2009 to like 2020, 2009 to like 2011 maybe. That was when I was like in the height of this stuff. And so I just really love that I was able to catch Del Barber one last time. I thought it was really special. You know, it's been a long time since I had seen him live, and turns out he's doing great. He's just living the life. I think he's going to live kind of like a farm life or something like that after this. He's got some land. That to me is very exciting. I wish him the best forever and ever. Okay, we got more amazing music. I added some flamenco to my collection recently. This is Paco by Paco de Lucia. Paco de Lucia? Paco de Luca? Paco... I remember hearing this guy's name back when I was a kid a fair bit. I think he had his moment in the 90s and beyond. But this is an album from the 70s. It's a bunch of like traditional solo flamenco guitar music, and it is just a phenomenal listen. I lucked out and found a couple flamenco releases recently at a used shop, including this one. So really stoked that I was able to add it to my collection. It's a wonderful listen. I think this is like a Western reissue of one of his kind of like 70s releases. So really love that I was able to add that to the collection, but I'm going to try and get all of the fur and fuzz off of my hands. Oh God, it's all over my shirt. No! What are we going to do? What else are we going to do? Glimmer's here. She sheds, but she's also so good. Glimmer, do you have more kissies for me? Mwah. Okay, these next 3 records I am so lucky to have in my collection. I'm just gonna grab them one at a time because I don't wanna deal with the entire stack. I recently added the discography of one Nick Drake to my collection in a very special way. This is Five Leaves Left, the debut album by Nick Drake, singer-songwriter extraordinaire, one of the most fabulous voices in kind of like the folk rock genre. Absolutely stunning. I really love this record, but I think his follow-ups are maybe a little stronger. Really good. Okay, bye Glimmer. Okay, we can breathe a sigh of relief now that Glimmer's gone, but I can also be mortified by the amount of fur on my shirt. So my apologies that this is how we're going to end out the episode. Or by end out the episode, I mean, we're still very much in the early days. Okay, Five Leaves Left by Nick Drake. I'm super excited to have the entire Nick Drake discography in my collection. I can grab them all now that Glimmer's gone. But yeah, really thrilled. And as you can see, they're all from the same label. These are records from Simply Vinyl. Simply Vinyl, I don't believe is around anymore, but they were a reissue label that put out a bunch of really awesome titles in and around like the 2000s. So all of these records actually date back to about between 1999 and 2001. What's even weirder is that these have been bootlegged before. Oddly, someone has bootlegged the Simply Vinyl releases of Nick Drake before, but these are the real deal. I found them all in a batch, like all in pristine, potentially unopened condition at a pawn shop. Was really pleased that these came across my path because I've been looking for Nick Drake for a long time. Vintage pressings are completely out of the question. Way too expensive. Probably nebulous to find good ones or ones in good condition. And then also just like, yeah, impossible to find. So, but then modern reissues, it would be nice to get like the entire discography in like the similar quality or like in and amongst the same batch. And this is actually the perfect scenario for me because while some folks, excuse me, I'm gonna get some water. While some folks kind of decry these Simply Vinyl pressings as being like digital, like maybe not AAA analog in presentation, I think they're phenomenal versions of the records because for a bunch of different reasons. So first off, let me share with you, these things come in PVC sleeves, which normally people dislike PVC sleeves, but as long as they're not touching the vinyl record itself, you really have no danger of the PVC at all. I would imagine that maybe it's a little more sensitive in more humid environments, but where I live, it's extremely dry, super duper dry. So that means these records are totally fine, or they appeared to be totally fine. I've since played them, taken a look at them, and they're just phenomenal. I love the way these sound. So they come in these PVC sleeves. You can see that they've got the foil sticker here, that they are kind of like classic albums, 180 gram virgin vinyl, heavy quality sleeves. They're not like tip-on sleeves, but they're still very nice. They come sealed in these PVC sleeves via like hype stickers that need to be peeled off in order to access the record. Also, and this is kind of faint and probably one of the best tells that these are legitimate versions of the record, is that they do come in embossed PVC sleeves too. So they do actually say Simply Vinyl across the top. But these are just stunning. I'm looking forward to re-sleeving this batch into different sleeves and maybe transferring over all of these stickers. I just don't really like PVC sleeves. If you know me, then you know I use those Vinyl Storage Solutions sleeves. They're really just my favorites. So yes, 5 leaves left. We got Brighter Later, which I think might be the one that I play the most of these 3, because I feel like Brighter Later has a slightly more like cheery tone to it. It's just like it's a little more orchestrated, a little more arranged, and so it just comes off as a little more lighthearted as a result. That said, when I want to feel my feels, when I want to maybe just maybe suffer a little bit or put myself through kind of the agony of the songwriter, or just it's a really tough, it's not a tough listen, it's actually a beautifully stunning listen, but it is like very sparse in its presentation, and it can be a little bit heavy at times. So this is Pink Moon by Nick Drake. This is just a phenomenal record. Probably his true, like, his true, like, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, like, this is the record for most people. And I totally understand why. It's extremely bare bones in its presentation. Nick is like completely naked at the microphone, not literally, but you know what I mean, like it's such a naked presentation. It's him, his voice, his guitar, and not a whole heckin' lot else. It's phenomenal. It's a kind of a devastating record, but in like the most beautiful way possible. So I found these 3 in a pawn shop, absolutely wildin', and let me tell you why I think they're so good. So I think the presentation is really nice. You don't need everything to be in like a tip-on sleeve. Frankly, they take up too much shelf space. Like the width of the spines can be a little bit crazy. And I personally think that, you know, having something that's a little more like, just more like bare bones is actually not a bad thing. So I like the presentation of these. I think the sound is quite solid. It doesn't like floor me in the way that some of my like higher quality audiophile pressings do. But what really impressed me about these is just the quality of the pressing. So we are talking completely flat, like completely on center. So there's not a lot of like wow and flutter that happens throughout. So as it approaches the center of the record, or as it approaches the run out, it's not like you're not getting a ton of sibilance or anything like that. It generally just sounds really good. So highly recommend these pressings if you can find them. But of course, if you know the history of vinyl records, you know, the 90s, early 2000s weren't exactly their heyday. So it really was like, boutique audiophile reissue labels. It was a lot of like mainstream hip hop releases, a lot of like white label 12 inches of those. And generally just not a ton of music making it to wax in that time period. So really happy and blessed to have some really cool Nick Drake albums in my collection, or a really cool trio of Nick Drake releases in my collection. And I really just want to like reiterate a million times over that those albums are all so stunningly beautiful, and they deserve your time. If you've never listened to Nick Drake and you fancy yourself a fan of songwriters or a fan of like deep songwriting, then you're gonna absolutely love his stuff. I'm gonna get a little more water, and I've got even more records. I've actually got a surprising amount of these country folk albums to show off. I think I hit the glass to my teeth, so it probably made a funky sound. But I can't believe I got one of these. These are not super easy to come by. This is a vintage copy of Willie Nelson's Phases and Stages. This is like a perfect, slightly spacey country album. It is maybe Willie Nelson's finest moment. It's certainly like the most magnetically engaging to me, at least. And he's got some amazing albums. I think like Redhead Pretender is another really good one, but like this one really jumps out at me. So I'm happy that I can say that this is the first Willie Nelson album that I've added to my collection, and it's going to remain probably the one that like sticks around, because if you know that vintage copies of these do not pop up very often. They're not particularly expensive when they do pop up, but they are rare enough that it's worth picking it up if you ever see a copy. So I managed to find actually two. Two Canadian pressings recently. I lucked out. I hadn't seen one of these in person for a number of years. I think I found these early in my collecting journey, but didn't collect it. But I think it had been a number of years since I'd truly seen a vintage copy in the wild. You can find the reissues every so often. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, early pressings, much tougher. So this version actually came in as part of a collection that came to the store. For those that don't know, I work in a record store a day or two a week. It's just a really fun little gig. I love it a lot. And one of the best parts of that job is when people bring their used collections in and trade them for either store credit or cash. This collection that came in had a bunch of really stellar classic rock, like easy sales, things that you put on the shelf and they just pop right. They leave with people. It's what happens. But this came into the store, and I mean, this barely sat on the shelf before I walked over and was like, I think I have to take this home. You pay money for it, but like so that is one perk of working in a record store. I don't like making a habit of it. I want to give people the best access to records possible, but when something like this that has been on a want list for a while and something that is like desirable within my collection, it really feels like it adds some dimension to this country folk section. Like, I had to add it. So Willie Nelson, Phases and Stages. So happy to have a copy of this. The second copy that I found recently was actually at a pawn shop. Again, same pawn shop that I got the Nick Drake stuff at, but on a different day. I found a $5 copy of this. They must have mispriced it on the shelf, because typically these things go for a little bit more if you know what you're looking for. Maybe like $30, that sort of thing. Canadian, mind you. But yeah, $5 Willie Nelson Phases and Stages. So really, I was able to pass the karma back on to the store. So that is something I did, is I went and picked up the $5 copy, and I gave it back to the store to align myself karmically. We have another flamenco release. So we looked at the Paco earlier, but now we got Sabicas. This is the art of the guitar. This is a Western reissue, definitely a Western reissue of, I believe, a self-titled Sabicas album. But again, this is solo acoustic guitar, nylon string flamenco, and it is fabulous. It's really good. It's really, really good. I would love to get more of, because I think he has an accompanist and like singers and stuff like that, at least based on the write-up in the back here, and I feel like that would be really nice to add to the collection. But I gotta say, like, you know, actually, here's a little like confiding moment. I have put out some videos in the past of like, here's some records you should check out from various regions of the world. And, you know, it's really difficult to, appease everyone's taste. I feel like when you're talking about regions of the world, it's really difficult to hone in on like the breadth and depth of the music of certain of any area really in like a short numbered list. So I actually found that I've had limitations when kind of presenting albums from various regions or presenting them as albums from various regions. So for me, like, for instance, this is a great example. Like, I've got some flamenco music in my collection, probably enough to make an interesting or compelling video, but, you know, it might not be, it's certainly not going to be indicative of the whole of music that comes from Spain, because truly there's so much amazing stuff across genres that comes out of that country and every other country in the world. Music is just the most brilliant universal language. The other thing that I wanted to say about this record and music from regions of the world too is that it's also very difficult to find in the Canadian prairies. Like, I've been collecting for almost 20 years, and maybe not almost 20 years. I think it's like literally 16 or 17 years. So I'm going to say 16 or 17 years. And it's like I've barely found any flamenco music in my collecting journey, especially vintage flamenco music. So when these popped up, I had to kind of snap them because I think that I just really love flamenco music. I mean, prior to this point, I really only had like some like modern, like even like the first Rosalia record. I feel like that is like a wonderful flamenco record, flamenco pop record that shows off a lot of like traditional techniques, but it's really nice to get some like traditional solo guitar stuff and really just like sink into those instrumentals. I think it's pretty neat. Okay, last record that we're going to show off from the new arrivals today is actually not a country folk record. This is an electronic album, but it's from a section of the alphabet that we've already looked at. So in a previous video, I showed you my Arca collection. I love her music. If you love experimental electronic music, reggaeton, like all like really genre blendy and cool and forward-thinking stuff, then you got to check out Arca. But I've been following her for quite a while, and one of the albums I showed off is her album Xen, X-E-N. It's her debut full-length, if I'm not mistaken. It's really wonderful. And courtesy of my boss at the store, I think he had this and he was getting rid of it and he asked if I would want it. But this is Xen, but this is the special edition limited numbered copy out of 500. So what's really cool about this is it comes with first off, I can show you the album cover because I'm covering it with this 10-inch record of bonus tracks. This 10-inch is a bunch of like 3 exclusive tracks that you can't hear anywhere else. They're not on streaming, nothing like that. So really fabulous to have some of those tracks in the collection. I think they're actually stellar and they deserve to be treated to a much wider release. I would maybe love to see them, but the exclusivity is kind of nice too. And then it also comes in this, right down here, this is not a 7-inch. It looks like a 7-inch, but it's not. It is just a folded up opaque black sleeve that covers this entire thing. But so we just folded it up because I don't need the black sleeve. Like, I'm going to probably re-sleeve this into something else entirely. But what's really cool is that it's hand numbered, presumably by Arca herself. And what's really fabulous compared to photos I've seen online of other versions, she was pretty creative in how she numbered these. The fact that she used the album name Xen as the slash that goes between the numbers 116 and out of 500, that is such a creative touch. And I didn't quite see that on any other versions I saw. So really fabulous to have this in the collection. I'm so stoked and grateful to my boss for highlighting it and thinking that it might be something I want before he trades it in himself. And yeah, feel very blessed for that. Thank you, Eddie. Okay, now that we're through the new arrivals, we can start talking about, we can pick up where we left off on the electronic music. I'm really excited about it. I'm a little bit mortified that I'm covered in so much fur, so I'm grateful that Glimmer was here from the beginning. If Glimmer wasn't here from the beginning, I don't know how I would explain the amount of fur that is on my shirt, because a little peek behind the curtain, I certainly do lint roll before I come on camera, because I gotta. I can't look like I live with cat. I live with a cat, but I have lived with cats before. Multiple, plural, and yeah, like fur gets everywhere. It's kind of inescapable. Okay, electronic music. I am so excited to dig in where we are today, because we're starting with one of my absolute favorite kind of contemporary voices in electronic music. Something that is someone whose music is practically indescribable, even though there are ways to define it. I just think that, yeah, whether it's an anonymous project, so whether it's one person, two people, a group, I don't even know. But we are going to talk about DJ Sabrina, the Teenage DJ. This is her album Charmed, and if you saw as I was picking this thing up, this is not just an album. This is a mammoth box set. This is in fact a 6 LP box set of Charmed. And if you're wondering, it's like, oh wow, that's a lot of bonus tracks or something like that. No, you don't know DJ Sabrina. DJ Sabrina, the Teenage DJ, is infamous for putting out very long projects. This is a 3-hour, is it 3 hours? Over 3 hours? This is a 3-hour record of plunderphonic house music, or, you know, it's much more loosely defined than plunderphonic. I feel like she or they experiment with a bunch of different styles throughout, a lot of like electropop, but it all kind of comes back to house music at the end of the day, and that is what you are going to find on DJ Sabrina. So DJ Sabrina releases are defined by their length. Yeah, like you can tell a DJ Sabrina record based on how it has like 40 tracks on it, and it's 3-4 hours long, like Charmed. But it's also has a ton of defining characteristics, including this like pixel art that is present on all of her records. This is very much in the style of like a point and click PC game of like maybe Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which I mean Sabrina the Teenage DJ Sabrina the Teenage DJ. That gives it away right there. But Sabrina Spellman is very much the inspiration and vibe of DJ Sabrina, and as a result, you get music that combines house music with samples from pop, as well as kind of like spoken word bits from, whether they're, I don't think it's a lot from commercials, but I think it's a lot from like sitcoms or recreations of samples or recreations of like dialogue bits that you would hear in 90s sitcoms like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Sabrina the Teenage DJ, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Sabrina Spellman. So yeah, I think it's just fantastic. It's so tough to describe, but really the most defining characteristic of DJ Sabrina stuff is how jubilant, how joyful, how life-affirming her music is, because these tracks just like, they get my heartbeat racing, they fill me with endless positivity. It's just like a fun time. It's a fun listen in very tough times. So it takes the mind off of things, and also it's a great way to eat up like a shift of work. So if you're working really hard during the day and you need something to listen to, throw on any number of DJ Sabrina albums and your whole day is set. You've listened to one album and suddenly 4 hours of your day has gone by. Yeah, I love it. So I am lucky in that I have quite a few DJ Sabrina releases. Charmed, obviously the one we were just looking at, is that like 6 LP box set. It is, yeah, over 3 hours. It is also, I think, kind of rare. So it's certainly the most desirable of her LPs that she's released so far. But if I'm being honest, my favorite of her records is a follow-up album called Bewitched. Bewitched, again, features that like sort of pixel art that you saw on Charmed. But this is a bit of like a micro DJ Sabrina album in the sense that it is not 3 hours long. It is only 90 minutes. But this 90 minutes is just one of the most like fabulous, like uplifting, like little pop house records. It is so much fun. It's great, just a great deal of fun. All of my Sabrina stuff is signed, which is really cool. How they were able to put 90 minutes on 2 LPs, I'm still not entirely sure, but it's really good. This one has some really, really, really good tracks. Is it Part of Me? A Part of Me. What is it? A Part of Me, yes. Is probably my favorite DJ Sabrina song, like altogether. It's got a great sample of, I don't know what the sample is, but the sample goes like, obviously it says the title of the song, a part of, you took a part of me with you, took a part of me with you. You see, all I'm saying is, can I see you again? Because when you left, you took a part of me with you. You took a part of me with you. Like, it makes no sense to do it out of context, but trust me when I say it's so beautiful. Call Me is a really good, like, kind of like driving, housey, like light synth pop moment. It's really good. It's just like a pop song. It's a pop song in 7 minutes. It's a 7-minute pop song. Okay, final DJ Sabrina the Teenage DJ record we're gonna look at today is Destiny. I hope they're visible in these sleeves. I didn't think to take them out of their sleeves, but we'll see. We're crossing that bridge when we get to the edit. This album is called Destiny. This is yet another mammoth box set, and this album is even longer than Charmed. This album is, I believe, 4 hours, or either just about or just over 4 hours. It is still spread across 6 LPs, so they were able to they were just able to sequence this thing a lot more, efficiently on the vinyl. So really cool. This is all on like a rainbow assortment of colored translucent records. Looks really good. This also comes at a point in DJ Sabrina's career where you can see on the hype sticker here, featured on a 1975 record. So if you've listened to recent 1975 records, you will have heard DJ Sabrina, contributions from DJ Sabrina the Teenage DJ, and I believe it's been confirmed that they're working again together. So that's really cool. Again, like the other two, this one is signed. So Sabrina Spellman, whether it's 1 person, 2 persons, 3 persons, a million persons that are in the group, a collective, I'm not entirely sure. But DJ Sabrina the Teenage DJ is just, again, a hugely life-affirming artist. I feel like I've done a very poor job describing their music, but just know that if you ever want to pick me up, DJ Sabrina's got your back. So definitely worth checking out. And we are going to continue on with more electronic music. Like I said, we've got tons more to go. Well, I didn't say that, but we've got tons more to go. This collection is going to take forever to go through. So we're, especially if I keep adding records like I have, goodness gracious, like it's really tough to, it's going to be really tough to keep up with everything, isn't it? Especially as we get further into the collection, then I'm going to have to go through top down all the new releases. It's going to be wild. Okay. Yeah, really excited to show this one off. This is an album this is kind of like a mini album or an album by Dominique Dumont, and it's called Comme Ça. Dominique Dumont is so this album was released in France, but Dominique is not French. I believe Latvian do not quote me on that. I could be very wrong. I had to commit to something, but I could be wrong. So feel free to fact check me. I'm going to fact check this myself once I get off camera. I'm woefully unprepared. But this is an amazing sort of, how would you describe this? This is like Balearic house music. It is beautifully like chilly, but also very cool. So what I love about this is it kind of feels like a bedroom pop record. There isn't a lot of like bottom end to it, not a lot of low end. Songs are kind of, their presentation can kind of vary a little bit. There's some instrumental passages. You've got some really cool vocals. This kind of like, yeah, I'm trying to describe the vocal in a way that is accurate. And I just feel like it's a little bit plain spoken. It's very staccato in its presentation. And I like that about it. I know it's not very descriptive, but I love this record for a bunch of different reasons. I feel like some moments are really poppy, some moments are almost like experimental and almost drone-like, or passages that repeat for a very long time. 8 songs I believe it's 8 songs, it could even be less, maybe even 6 songs, that just, it is only 6 songs, that just are really amazing. So I don't know. It's really tough to describe this. I believe it's from 2011. 2011. Oh gosh. I'm not prepared to talk about this record at all. 2015. Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Check out Dominique Dumont. Comme Ça is an amazing record. This is kind of a rare record to come by, and I was super lucky that I was able to find it locally. I saw that one of my local record stores posted that they had a copy of this to their Facebook, and I just immediately went out and grabbed it. Like I turned around and I dropped everything and I ran to the store to pick up this, as well as a vintage copy of The Moon and the Melodies, Harold Budd and Elizabeth Fraser, Simon Raymond. Really good, or Redmond. Really good record if you like Cocteau Twins, because it's basically a Cocteau Twins record. Okay, we are going to move on. We got lots more. This is an album that I have kind of classified in the electronic music section, but you know, whether it's electronic or not, it's kind of, yeah, whatever. This is El Guincho's Elegranza. This is a like kind of experimental pop record from El Guincho, who is a really fascinating story, because started off making music like this. The music on this record, I say it's like kind of closer in sound to like Animal Collective than anything else. But yeah, so he's a Spanish music producer that has made some really amazing things. His follow-up to this record is one of my favorite kind of like pop reggaeton albums ever. It is extremely hard to find and may or may not be released by Vinyl Me Please. We'll see if that happens. They've teased a reissue, but we'll see if it pops up. And then ended up moving on to producing for other people, and has made a huge name for himself, being Rosalia's kind of go-to producer, which is huge. So from her second album onward, from El Mal to Motomami, El Guincho's all over that, all over those records, and has produced a bunch of kind of like big reggaeton hits over the years. So that's really cool. I love that I was hip to this guy super early and kind of came around to appreciating the fact that he was doing some stuff like way outside of this initial moment. This is a record from 2008, so you can see that the evolution has happened gradually, but it's amazing. So I'm endlessly happy for the guy. I love everything he's done with Rosalia and beyond. Fantastic producer. Okay. I am going to take a look now at one of my absolute favorite electronic music producers. This is an EP called Shadow. Shadow? This is by Floating Points, if you don't know. Floating Points, I believe his name is Sam Shepard, if I'm not mistaken, is a UK music producer and is someone who has had a very interesting trajectory because while his music started off being like fairly straight ahead house music, I say straight ahead, but EPs like this from early in his career are really not straight ahead at all. They're very they weave and they wind, they drive through house music beats, but feature a ton of natural instrumentation or like real acoustic instrumentation. And sorry, not acoustic instrumentation. You hear a lot of Rhodes on this release and beyond. And this is just a really fabulous, like, kind of night drive sort of house music record. It's an EP, but it's pretty substantial length, so totally worth checking out, seeking out. It took me a very long time to end up getting a copy. I think this is like the third reissue or something like that. But I'm happy that I did finally get it. It's really amazing. He's also got some other amazing tracks from I say early in his career, but I think his career has been going for longer than I give him credit. Shadow might be an early EP, but I think he was producing from even a few years before that. One of my favorite songs of his from not necessarily that era, but maybe a year or two after is called King Bromeliad. And it is, I think, like 9 or 11 minutes. And it just evolves in such a cool way. I will say Sam's musical trajectory, as I kind of teased when I brought the first EP out, is that like has done some really fabulous kind of pivots and left turns throughout his career. So we're going to take now a look at Elania. Sorry, this is, I believe, his first full length that came out. This came out on Luwakabop, which is kind of an interesting home for Floating Points. Never really would have expected that. Luwakabop is predominantly a reissue label that is run by Dave Byrne from the Talking Heads. And yeah, Elania here is a really amazing release. What kind of differentiates this from earlier stuff is that I feel like there's a lot more modular synthesis going on this one. Like there's a lot more, not necessarily randomness, but like a lot more fluidity to the music, that like the polyrhythmic stuff that can be generated by modular synths is really good for. So I think it's amazing. This is a great release, but it's I think only indicative of the amazing, truly amazing things that came after that. I think we're skipping ahead a little bit. This is Crush. This is another full length by Floating Points. I think the follow-up, actually. We're not skipping that far ahead. There is a companion piece to Elenia that is also very good. I don't own a copy of it, but it's like an EP. It's worth checking out as well. Crush is another full-length record. This one is so refined in its presentation, and as you'll kind of notice me say throughout looking at his discography, is that refinement is like the name of the game. So this album, really refined. It takes like the sound and style of Elania and really like makes it a little more fun, a little more club, but still kind of like holds a very cerebral path, which I think is totally worth it. A lot of his stuff does that, but really where that cerebrality, we're making up words here, cerebrality, where that really came to a head is on one of the most remarkable releases I've seen in a number of years. So inspired. I don't know how the heck this thing came together, but we are talking about Promises. Promises is a compositional piece. This is a single song. It's like a 45-minute song. By Floating Points, the London Symphony Orchestra, and most importantly, one Pharoah Sanders. Pharoah Sanders is, of course, I mean, I expect you to know this, but because I'm quizzing you I'm going to quiz you at the end of this complete collection show. Pharoah Sanders will definitely be on the test. Yeah, so sorry, Pharoah Sanders is, or was, unfortunately, he passed away not terribly long after the release of this, maybe a year or two after the release. But he was a phenomenal spiritual jazz saxophonist. Truly one of the most magnetic voices of spiritual jazz. He worked alongside Alice Coltrane. He put out a number of amazing records on his own that I feel very lucky to have. You can see this mammoth, very like visible spine here. It's a Luwaka Bopri issue of Harvest Time. There is, yeah, Karma. There's so many good Pharoah Sanders records, and I'm very lucky to own quite a few of them, but still by no means everything. Promises is a very special piece. This compositional piece, this song is so stunningly beautiful. It absolutely wrecks me. There isn't a ton of saxophone on it, but it's so expressively played. The actual repeating kind of motif, or the evolving motif throughout the entire thing, is just like so beautiful in its simplicity, and just the way that all of the notes kind of collide. You get this really beautiful mix of orchestral and electronic and jazz, all kind of like mingling in one thing. It's something that is so inspired that it's like, how could you possibly follow it up? Or like, how can you put out anything else truly of note? And what I really like about Floating Points, and he kind of teased this on Crush, but went full on in Cascade. This is his latest full length. He went to a club sound. Like, Floating Points on this release, teased on Crush, but really on this release, was like, no, we're making club music. This is music to dance to. And that is maybe one of my favorite things about this record, is that it is so hard hitting. There's like great builds and rises and payoffs and like breakdowns and all that good stuff that you love in like truly like your dancey dance music, like even in EDM. This is like the most EDM that you'll ever get, maybe, but that's a terrible way to put it. This is so much more of like, this is a house record. It's so much more inspired by techno. What makes this thing really interesting is that there's a bunch of vocoder experiments on this. So I think the central conceit of the record is that there's a lot of vocoder used throughout, and it's used in very distinct but unpredictable, not unpredictable, but yeah, maybe unpredictable ways, used in unpredictable fashion. So the opening track features like like what feel like vocoded vocals, but is most likely vocoded drums. And that, like, yeah, sound really good, but the use of vocoder becomes so much more fluid and malleable throughout the record. So highly recommend Floating Points to people. I've been going off for a while, but like, I really dig this guy's music. He's certainly one of the most engaging names in the entire genre right now, and I just am so lucky to have some music from him in my collection, because I revisit this guy all the time. We got more records again. We're going to take a look at, and this might take us almost to the end of the episode, but we're going to take a look at one of my, again, favorite music producers, someone who I've been following for a number of years, someone who I've been lucky to see live, and someone who I think like has made so many interesting pivots and moves throughout his career, but you know, it's tough. I feel like he's got some really like seminal landmark albums to his name, but like, it's tough to capitalize and recreate that sort of spark. So we're going to talk about Flying Lotus for a sec. Flying Lotus is a LA beat maker. So someone who's known within the LA beat music scene. Really like the biggest name to have come out of that scene. So we're talking like late 2000s, early 2010s. There was a night, it might still be around, but there was a night in LA called Low End Theory that featured what would eventually turn into beat music, but essentially kind of like psychedelic and hyper beat focused takes on electronic music and hip hop. So Flying Lotus really did a great job on this in Los Angeles and Cosmogramma, two follow-ups to this record here, 1983. But it's really interesting to see kind of like where he came from. And this record's cool because A, it's really hard to find. I was lucky enough to find it like when this reissue originally came out, and I think like 2011. It's also on this kind of colored vinyl, which is kind of neat. But 1983 is interesting because this record came in and around the time that he was making bumper music for Adult Swim. That was kind of Flying Lotus's breakout, or that's what got people's attention at first, was he was creating these like psychedelic little electronic, like, 10-second numbers, 15-second numbers, 5-second numbers that were all just very like space age and really forward thinking. And you get a lot of that on this record here. This one is definitely more of a traditional like beat oriented tape. Like these are like hip hop instrumentals. You could hear people rap over this pretty easily, but that only became more and more difficult, I would imagine, with later releases. There are vocalists, like pretty much every Flying Lotus release features vocalists, but really hard on some of the faster tempo songs to really compete with the beats, because that is the whole point of beat music, is that the beat is so in front. And the beat is ever changing and the beat is ever evolving. I love it. I talked about this one earlier. This is Los Angeles. This is I guess like kind of the debut full-length album. I don't know if 1983 is a full-length or an EP or a mix. I can't remember. But Los Angeles is his breakout album. This is a really amazing, super forward-thinking, and entirely unique take on, kind of like beat-oriented music. It's hip-hop beats made psychedelic, made faster, made more driving, and made way more in your face. Flying Lotus at this point in his career too is kind of playing with these little like sketches or like micro song ideas. So some numbers on this and the follow-up Cosmogramma are only like a minute and change in length, but they're just so engaging and so phenomenal. I think Los Angeles is a fantastic record, and I can understand why people are drawn to the kind of like machinations of this one. I feel like this one's maybe slightly more mechanical, a little less holistic than later releases. And it reminds me almost of like Boards of Canada in a way. Very like calculated beats and very forward in the mix. But yeah, I think this one's fantastic. But if I'm being totally honest, the one that really hooked me, and the one that still to me this day is the one that I go back to, is the one that I like to go back to, is Cosmogramma. Cosmogramma is the follow-up to Los Angeles, and this one's really interesting because it adds a lot more vocal features to the mix. You've got Tom York, you've got the first real appearance of Thundercat on vocal. Like, I had never heard I'd never heard a Thundercat song because Thundercat's debut album hadn't come out yet. This came before the golden age of Apocalypse. So yeah, really cool to hear his voice come together. His bass playing is all over this thing. And that kind of started like a very fruitful creative partnership between the two that they pursued for a number of years. Love this album. It's so psychedelic. It's so forward thinking. The textures just like hit you across the head. It's like you're getting clonked by the beat hammer. I really think it's amazing. I can't recommend this one highly enough, but I actually think there's almost more to say about where he pivoted after this album than there is to say about the album itself, because I've got all of the accompanying pieces. This is Cosmogramma alt takes. This peels back the layers of Cosmogramma to unveil like Miguel Atwood Ferguson's like arrangements. We're talking string arrangements, harp. Flying Lotus is also the nephew or the great nephew of Alice Coltrane. Like, guy is distantly related to John Coltrane. That is wild to me. Or has like not 6 degrees, has like 1 degree of separation from John Coltrane. That is wild to me. But yeah, Cosmogramma alt takes, peels back all the layers and exposes some of the underbelly. So yeah, you'll hear like, yeah, the harp arrangement. The stripped version of Pickled with Matthew David. Matthew David is an interesting character because he took on a lot of like mastering duties for people in LA. So if you listen to like Sam Gendel records now, like Sam Wilkes, Sam Gendel, like all the people in the LA, like it's not the beat music scene now. It's really more, they've got like a jazz scene, and it's really cool. I love all that stuff. But Matthew David does a ton of like mastering and production work on releases that come out of LA, modern releases that come out through LA. So love to see someone who's made a career for themselves in a slightly alternate from a slightly alternate trajectory, because yeah, Matthew David has put out some good records on their own too. So Pattern Grid World, this is again sort of an accompanying piece to Cosmogramma, is an EP that came out after. But I think where the conversation really gets interesting is on follow-ups like Until the Quiet Comes. This is Flying Lotus's, I believe, 3rd, maybe 4th record, depending on whether 1983 counts or not. This is really interesting because a few notable things. Notable thing number 1, there are fewer micro songs on this thing. We're talking like 3-4 minute song lengths. We are talking not pop songs, just pop song length. These are still very like forward-thinking, futuristic, experimental to a certain extent, very lushly arranged, but also very beat-oriented songs. Again, you've got lots of vocal features on this thing. Tom York is back. Maybe the coolest vocal feature on this thing is Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu is in the mix. Thundercat's back in the mix, of course. And yeah, this thing is actually totally underrated. Until the Quiet Comes didn't get much attention on release. I feel like it's only gotten more panned in the years since its release, but I think it's actually one of his most beautiful records. It's certainly one of the most lush sounding of his albums, so I really love that. We got, I think, one more. I used to have so many more Flying Lotus releases, but I've kind of had to scale back a little bit. But the last one that I wanted to highlight is maybe even one of my favorite, or if not my favorite. I know Cosmogramma is so good, but You're Dead is a really unique statement too. This is a wild full-length record. It doesn't look like much. It actually has a very vivid illustrated album artwork. But this is the deluxe edition with the bonus instrumentals that came with it too. But this is really amazing because it ups the vocal features quite a bit. It comes in the wake of Captain Murphy. Captain Murphy being Flying Lotus's kind of like one-time hip hop hip hop project where he was an MC. Kind of like anonymously for a while. It kind of sounded like him, but anonymously for a while. So he kind of comes back into the picture on this. In and amongst like Snoop Dogg, you've got Kendrick Lamar on this thing on a really notable song, one of the better Kendrick Lamar songs in general. Thundercat, Herbie Hancock is on this thing. Like, it's amazing. It's a very like doomy trip to hell and back, but like made through the lens of jazz fusion. So still a beat-oriented record, but definitely one that is more likened to jazz fusion than it is to beat music. I think it's a really special release. It's a very short album, so if you've ever wanted to take the shortest trip to hell and back, consider You're Dead from Flying Lotus. And that brings us to the end of Complete Collection. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really happy that you were all along for the ride to check out some new arrivals to my collection and then kind of picking up where we left off in the electronic music. So stay tuned for more episodes of Complete Collection and stay tuned for more videos to come in general. I am so glad that you're able to be here today, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.